The mistake that makes women ignore you is the same one that stops you from being desired. You offer yourself before they even feel the urge to conquer you. Stop and observe your pattern. You anticipate messages, explain intentions, try to advance what she hasn't even asked for yet. That's not generosity. It's disguised anxiety. And anxiety has a smell, a rhythm, a body. She senses it in your tone of voice, in the look that seeks validation, in the rush to fill any silence. What you call attention is in truth predictability, and predictability is the antidote to desire. The central principle is simple and brutal. Female desire is not born from availability, but from emotional scarcity and perceived value. Constant availability communicates that you need more than you choose, that you desire more than you are desired. Emotional scarcity, on the other hand, communicates selectiveness, self-sufficiency, and inner hierarchy. The man who doesn't give himself away immediately isn't playing hard to get. He's showing that he doesn't negotiate his center for validation. That's what the female mind reads as value. Robert Cialdini translated this mechanism precisely. The harder it is to obtain something, the more value we give to it. This is not an opinion. It's a replicable psychological principle. And when you apply it to human interaction, you understand why some men dominate the atmosphere effortlessly. They don't hide, but they also don't give themselves away. They don't refuse, but they choose. They don't chase, they attract. Value is born from the difficulty of access, and access must be earned. The unconscious conflict of the modern man lies here. He wants to be desired, but acts, seeking validation. He wants to become the prize, but behaves like a candidate. He wants her instinct to chase, but gives away all the answers before the question. This inversion destroys the biological role of attraction. The masculine forgets to lead the emotional rhythm, and the feminine loses what ignites it most. Challenge. Without challenge, there's no pursuit. Without pursuit, there's no living desire. There's scientific basis behind this feeling that uncertainty stirs everything up. A 2022 Stanford University study showed that the human brain releases 25% more dopamine when it senses emotional uncertainty. It's the same mechanism used in games and addictions. The mind returns where their reward is intermittent, where there's possibility of gain but never certainty. In interaction, that means your presence must carry calculated gaps, not to manipulate, but to allow her brain to do the work of chasing you. Today, you'll discover the simple psychological trick that makes women chase you without pretending, without acting, simply by adjusting your behavior of value. We're going to dismantle the habit of offering yourself too soon and rebuild your presence with intelligent scarcity, emotional rhythm, and selective posture. You're not going to learn to seem rare. You're going to learn to be rare. Because when you master the art of not offering yourself before she feels the urge to conquer you, the power shifts. And when the power shifts, she runs. Part 1. The invisible mistake that makes you predictable. The modern man doesn't realize that the greatest enemy of attraction is not rejection, it's predictability. He believes that being always present, responding fast, showing interest, and being available is the path to gain a woman's respect and desire. But each of these actions, however well-intentioned, extinguishes the flame of curiosity and kills the emotional tension that sustains desire. When everything about you is easy to predict, mystery disappears. And when mystery disappears, value disappears too. Predictability is the opposite of attraction. A woman may like someone, accessible, but it's the inaccessible that moves her. What she feels when a man is too stable, when he provokes no doubt or curiosity, is something the brain translates as the absence of challenge. And her instinct, shaped by millennia of natural selection, seeks challenge, not conflict, but the feeling of being before someone who demands emotional investment. Effort creates attachment, and when you take away the effort, you take away the pleasure of conquest. David Buss, author of The Evolution of Desire, explains that the female brain was programmed to detect signs of reproductive and social value. And those signs aren't in the ones who give themselves immediately. They're in those who show emotional control, selectivity, and measured presence. A 2021 Cambridge University study confirmed this by showing that male predictability reduces the perception of dominance and attractiveness by up to 40% in short social interactions. When you're easy to read, you're easy to forget. The predictable man replies fast, laughs too much, tries to please, repeats gestures and phrases that have become mechanical. He wants to show interest, but what he communicates is anxiety. And anxiety is interpreted in the female unconscious as a lack of hierarchy. The anxious man doesn't lead the environment, he obeys it, and that places him without realizing in the position of seeking approval. A woman doesn't respect the one who seeks approval. She respects the one who doesn't need it to validate his worth. The psychology of desire is cruel to those who don't understand its rhythm. When you show constant interest, her brain assumes you've already been conquered. Her instinct to conquer shuts off. The chase ends. Interest fades. It's biological. Dopamine, the hormone of pursuit and excitement, is released through uncertainty. If you become certainty, she loses what most stimulates her: doubt. And doubt is the fuel of desire. The insight is simple but deep. When you react too much, you give away power. When you observe first and respond later, you create curiosity. The woman starts trying to understand what you feel, what you think, why you don't react as expected. And that small deviation from the norm destabilizes her. Her brain enters a state of search, trying to decode what's happening. And when someone tries to decode you, they're already involved. The man she chases is the man who doesn't rush to conquer her. He doesn't play to win fast. He plays to dominate the rhythm. He understands that value is born from waiting. That silence, when charged with intention, is more powerful than any speech. He knows that true presence is selective. That selectivity is what makes him rare. The man who doesn't try to be noticed becomes impossible to ignore. Part 2. The trick of strategic uncertainty. Robert Greene said, "Uncertainty is the fuel of attraction." And he was right. No human values what they fully understand. Mystery sustains desire. When something is too clear, too predictable, it loses its power to fascinate. The female mind especially is driven by emotional curiosity. She doesn't fall for what she understands, but for what challenges her. The simple and powerful trick is to master the art of uncertainty. Not too cold, not too available, not what she expects, but what makes her think. Strategic uncertainty isn't a game. It's rhythm. It's emotional mastery. The man who dominates uncertainty isn't pretending disinterest. He simply doesn't feel the need to prove anything. He understands that the more predictable his response, the smaller its impact. When you break that pattern, when you reply in your own time, when you say less than expected, when you keep calm intention, you become an enigma. And the female mind is naturally drawn to enigmas. A 2020 Columbia University study showed that uncertainty about a partner's interest increases mental obsession in women by 32% during the initial attraction phase, meaning the harder it is to predict what you feel, the more space you occupy in her mind, and the longer she thinks about you, the stronger the emotional bond becomes. She doesn't notice it, but her body responds with more dopamine, more adrenaline, more arousal. It's the same reward circuit that keeps gamblers returning to the game. Except now, you are the game. Her mind tries to solve what it doesn't understand. Every silence, every calculated pause, every response that carries mystery, forces her brain to keep processing information. This creates fascination. She thinks of you when she's alone, replays old messages, analyzes what you meant, interprets your tone of voice. That's how you become a presence even in absence. You don't force remembrance, you become remembrance. Simple example. When she expects a quick reply, wait. When she compliments you, smile, but don't return it with intensity. When she tests you, don't change your tone. Show calm and presence. That control creates contrast. Contrast creates tension. And tension is where desire is born. The man who reacts with soft coldness but keeps a firm, silent gaze awakens something she can't explain, a curious discomfort. That sensation of doubt keeps her tied to you. The human body responds to uncertainty with dopamine, and dopamine is the hormone of addiction. It's what makes people addicted to stimuli that don't always reward but promise the possibility of reward. When you become the stimulus that never fully gives itself, her desire stays alive. She needs to figure out what lies behind your calm. She needs to know if you feel the same. She needs to solve the riddle, and in that need to solve it, she starts chasing. The trick of strategic uncertainty is simple but requires control. You must be comfortable with not being understood. You must accept that silence is stronger than explanation. You must understand that doubt is more seductive than certainty. The man who masters uncertainty isn't playing with emotions. He understands scarcity's value. He knows mystery is what keeps desire alive. If you want to master this dynamic and use real psychological triggers, the Seduction Code teaches techniques based on neuroscience and behavioral psychology. These aren't shallow tricks, but advanced methods that explain with scientific backing how the female mind reacts to energy, silence, and emotional control. This knowledge completely transforms how you're perceived. The link is in the description and pinned comment. Part 3. The Power of Calculated Disinterest. Machiavelli said, "He who controls perception controls the game," and that's the essence of silent power in seduction. The man who understands this law doesn't compete, insist, or chase. He simply controls how he's perceived. A woman doesn't fall for what she sees, but for what she feels when she sees. Nothing creates more desire than standing before someone who seems complete without needing anything. Calculated disinterest is that the perfect balance between presence and detachment, attention and control. A woman is emotionally drawn to the man who doesn't react. Notice not reacting is the ultimate sign of dominance. When she provokes and you keep your gaze steady, when she compliments and you just smile calmly, when she tries to destabilize you and you stay serene. All that communicates one unconscious message. You are not affected by external stimuli. And in the biological language of attraction, that translates as strength. Emotional strength, hierarchical strength, social strength. Research from the University of Vienna in 2023 showed that men with high tolerance for social discomfort are perceived as more dominant and desirable in 78% of analyzed cases. The reason is simple. The man who can handle silence, endure absence, and not crave constant approval communicates emotional status. He doesn't need the world to validate him. He validates himself. And that self-sufficiency is interpreted as power. Calculated disinterest awakens the female competitive instinct, because unconsciously, she realizes she must win the attention of someone who doesn't give it to just anyone. When a man shows calm and selectivity, her brain switches modes. She goes from evaluator to competitor. Competing for the attention of a high-value man is one of the strongest desire triggers. Suddenly, she feels the need to conquer you. Not for you, but for what conquering you represents. But be careful. Disinterest isn't coldness. It's emotional strategy. The cold man repels. The dominant man repels and attracts at the same time. He creates contrast. He's kind when he wants to be, distant when he needs to be. He alternates brief moments of genuine connection with long stretches of controlled presence. That rhythm creates addiction. She feels she has access but never control. And what can't be controlled becomes addictive. The difference between the ordinary man and the dominant man lies in how they react to absence. The ordinary man interprets silence as rejection and tries to fill the void. The dominant man sees silence as a test and uses it to his advantage. He waits, he observes, he lets the void grow until the other feels the need to fill it, and when the woman feels that need, she moves toward him. That's how the game flips. Desire isn't about pleasing. It's about being the prize she fears losing. It's about creating the feeling that you could disappear at any moment. The man who doesn't need to be liked becomes irresistible, because desire at its core is fear of loss, and a woman only fears losing what she doesn't fully possess. Calculated. Disinterest is the most elegant form of emotional dominance. It's the silence that imposes respect. It's the pause that creates value. It's the calm that challenges instinct. The man who masters this principle doesn't play with words. He plays with presence. He doesn't seduce with promises, but with lack of need. Because nothing is more attractive than someone who could have everything, yet chooses his own time. Conclusion: the game is silent. NZA said, "Power is the will to affirm oneself amidst chaos." And that's the foundation of true seduction. The man who makes women chase him doesn't play with rehearsed lines or superficial tricks. He plays with presence. He masters time, silence, and his own instinct. What makes him magnetic isn't how much he does, but how much he endures. He endures doubt, delay, and not being understood. While others try to prove value, he simply shows power through calm. And that calm is what sets him apart. The real game is silent. It's internal, invisible. It's the mastery over oneself that creates the sensation of control over the environment. The man who understands this stops seeking approval and starts controlling perception. He doesn't need to say he's different. His behavior communicates it. The tone of voice, the slowness of gestures, the gaze that doesn't rush. He doesn't react to what surrounds him. He decides what surrounds him. That subtle difference changes everything. The foundation of desire lies in scarcity, uncertainty, and emotional hierarchy. The man who masters these three doesn't need to be the most handsome, richest, or funniest. He needs to be the rarest. Predictability makes him common. Uncertainty makes him unforgettable. Calculated disinterest makes him the prize. And the prize never chases. It attracts. It sets the rhythm. It dictates the game. A woman senses this before realizing it rationally. She can't explain it, but her body recognizes the energy of a man who doesn't need her to affirm himself. And that's exactly why she desires him. Because he represents something above the ordinary. Emotional control, inner mastery, the ability not to be moved by need. That energy ignites the most primitive female instinct to conquer what seems unattainable. Remember the 3 keys. Avoid predictability. It kills mystery. Use uncertainty to your advantage. It keeps interest alive. Maintain calculated disinterest. It creates addiction. The real trick isn't psychological, it's behavioral. The man who doesn't seek approval forces the other to seek it. That's how power changes hands. Women don't chase the most handsome man. They chase the man who represents an emotional enigma. The man who seems complete but leaves cracks of curiosity. The man who never rushes but radiates intensity. The man who never asks but is always remembered. That's the kind of presence that marks the unconscious even when it's gone. In the Seduction Code, I teach exactly how to create this magnetic energy based on real studies of desire psychology and advanced techniques never seen online. The method is unique because it doesn't teach fake confidence. It teaches how to build presence. You'll understand how to master your body language, emotional rhythm, and the invisible game that makes any woman feel your absence's impact. The link is in the description and pinned comment. When you master your own instinct, their desire stops being a choice and becomes a reaction. That's how power changes places. That's how the game flips. And that's how the man who learned to restrain himself becomes the man every other tries to imitate and every woman tries to reach.